Then it's just a matter of pouring it into your whatever container you're storing it in my pot here. And I want something with tall sides because I'm going to use my stick blender in here later on. We're going to go on a medium flame, but first we've got 12 ounces of raspberries. You know, this video is one of those that's been requested a long time ago and I just didn't get around to making it. And what we're going to do is a combination, and you know, I like raw pepper sauce or hot sauce. This time we're going to do a combination of things. We're going to cook this out, and there's a reason for cooking it out. And two, then we're going to add the raw side of things, which is the Scotch bonnet pepper. I'm using a combination of Scotch bonnet. And so that was some garlic, 2 cloves of garlic. I've got 2 slices of ginger, a combination of Bahamian goat pepper, which I grew, and Scotch bonnet pepper. If you want to use habanero, if you want to use any spicy pepper, will work. I've got here 1 tablespoon of dark brown sugar. I'm going to go in with some white wine vinegar, just a tiny bit more, because we want this to cook down, and we're almost creating a compote, to be honest with you. And finally, we added that brown sugar to pull out some of the sweetness. And speaking of sweetness, it is fall, it is Canada, so I'm adding some pure. I ain't talking about that auntie stuff. When I say auntie, you know who I mean. I think they changed the name now. Pure maple syrup. So I'm just going to turn my stove on now, medium heat, and I'm going to bring that up to a boil. And you know, the reason why we're doing this like this is because later on we're going to strain this, because raspberries are infamous for having those little seeds, and I'm only trying to have those seeds in my pepper sauce. I added the garlic here, big, and the ginger because we can fish it out later, but those are going to flavor, that adds that flavor to everything here. So most of the flavor is coming from here, that raspberry rich, deep, sweet, so sort of tart as well to flavor. And later on, the pepper is coming via what I mentioned. As it starts coming up to a boil, what I'm going to do to help pull out some of the flavor of the raspberry, a bit of sea salt. That salt is going to pull out all the niceness from there. And I think I started off by saying this was a requested recipe. Yes, someone on Instagram, or was it Facebook, had reached out. Hey Chris, we want a raspberry. And this is after they tried the blueberry pepper sauce that I made many years ago. They requested this, and I'm only now getting around to filming it. So, small thing, man, at least we still getting it. On that medium heat, it'll only take about 5 minutes, well, 4 minutes to come up to a boil. I'm going to reduce my heat all the way down to low, and we're going to allow this to break apart. Notice how that raspberry is falling apart there. That is exactly what we want. So we're going to simmer this now. It's been going for 10 minutes. I'm going to turn my stove off. I'm going to move it off the burner and allow it to cool down. As I do that, I'm going to go in with the juice of half of a lemon. That tends to brighten things up, and I'm just catching the seeds. Zaire is filming with me today, so he has to be heard. We can allow this to cool down before we do anything else. A seed snuck in there, but I smelled him. As it cools down, I'm going to add a splash more of that white wine vinegar along with that lemon juice. And I want it to be this, you know, it's going to be one of them sweet and spicy kind of sauces. I've got here some honey. And I'm adding the honey here because I want that honey flavor to shine through when we finish the pepper sauce. Earlier I mentioned a couple things. One, I'll be using the stick blender, but everything broke down so nicely there is no need, absolutely no need to use the stick blender. What I am using is a strainer or a sieve, and all you want to do is work that through, because here's where we're going to collect the ginger and all that seeds and stuff like that. The nectar, the juice down here is what we really want, because that is where all that flavor is. The garlic is in there. Just about everything we used is all in there, and I'm just using my sieve or my strainer here with the wooden spoon, and I'm pressing and I'm moving around, and that's all we're doing to get the raspberry nectar. As you work your way through, you also want to scrape the underside of the strainer as well, because there's a lot of pulp and sauce there. This is what we're left with here. Ton of seeds and some of the more fibrous pulp. We don't want that in our pepper sauce. And these are the peppers all prepped in advance. They're all chopped up, and 12 peppers in total I use. And again, it's Scotch bonnet pepper as well as Bahamian goat pepper. I included the seeds in the white membrane around the pepper. If you want to control some of the heat, you can remove that. Yo, look who's back. Mr. Old School himself. This thing here is probably pushing about 50 years old or something. I don't know, man. But anyhow, peppers. Wear gloves. It is important. Wear gloves. I cannot stress enough for you all to wear gloves. Put those seeds in there. That is fire. We're going to need some more salt. It's all about balancing the flavors and pulling out all that nice heat and the sweetness. There's sweetness in that pepper as well too, you know. Don't get them mixed. All that lovely raspberry sort of compote liquid that I keep calling it the raspberry nectar. But remember, there's honey in there, there's brown sugar in there, there's ginger, there's garlic. There is maple syrup in there as well too. I like this pepper sauce somewhat smooth, so what I did was I put half a cup of plain old white vinegar. That's plain old white vinegar. And that's going to act as our sort of preservative without adding anything that we cannot pronounce or spell. I kind of rinsed the bowl where that raspberry nectar was. And all we're going to do now is, go crazy with the blender. Yeah, this thing I've seen a few bottles. And, just liquidify. It will only take a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, until you start getting that sort of desired consistency that you like. I like it liquid, so I'll show you in a second what that looks like. But I'm using this old school osterizer here. First of all, it gives me a great end product. But more importantly too, the other sort of blender that I have, we use it for smoothies and all those different things. This one is specifically for making green seasoning and pepper sauce, because after a while the flavor and the heat and everything else remains in the container. So my little tip, if you have one, if you have a great idea is to have two, one specifically for making pepper sauce and one for smoothies and all that. The other thing is, if you wanted to use a food processor, you can certainly use a food processor, but I find that breaking it down nice and smooth can be a bit challenging. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I'm trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irene. Then it's just a matter of pouring it into your whatever container you're storing it in. All I would suggest is that the containers are sterilized, and this will last in the fridge for at least a year. Chris here, CaribbeanPot.com. Always a pleasure having you guys here in the kitchen with me. Raspberry pepper sauce as requested. I hope you guys get the opportunity to give this one a try. Vent the kitchen, because that pepper is live. I'm telling you, boy, live.